Good afternoon, it's David Schlotthauer with a tropical update on Tropical Storm Bret for Monday afternoon, June the 19th. As always, my thoughts in this video are mine alone, and making decisions regarding Tropical Storm Bret, consult the National Hurricane Center and your local officials for the best information for where you are. Now, if you like these detailed tropical updates, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and leave a comment so you can get all my updates. So here's a look at the Atlantic-wide satellite imagery from tropicaltidbits.com, and for the entire discussion, we'll be focusing on Tropical Storm Bret, now newly named from the National Hurricane Center, the second named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season, and the second named storm, let alone in the month of June. We also have another disturbance out here to the east of it. This has a 50% chance. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that system. Instead, we're going to be focusing a whole lot instead on Bret. So this is a close-in, zoomed-in view on Bret, and the system has developed pretty quickly today in a quick fashion. Actually has become pretty well organized, that of a tropical storm this afternoon into the evening hours, with feathery white cirrus on the last few frames here of the visible satellite imagery. We have fanning out of cirrus in most quadrants here, which indicate that the system is in a light sheared environment. We're also looking at quite a bit of moisture on the northern side that is seamlessly wrapping around, so that's probably why we're starting to see better organization. But also the system seems to get a little more tighter in the way of the vortex, and we can see where the center actually is. Right in here somewhere, right before the sun goes down, is somewhere in there, with strong westerly winds at the surface, curving around all the way, and this is now a closed circulation, of course, otherwise it would not be dubbed in tropical depression Bret. There's a look at the wider view imagery on the visible. We can see there's a lot going on than just Bret in itself. Of course, we got Bret. That's what you see on your screen. And then off towards the west here, it may not look a whole lot of shear, but we do have some of these cloud filaments. See these thunderstorms here kind of popping off here in the afternoon hours, and some of the cirrus filaments are actually getting blown towards this system like this. There is semblance of westerly and southwesterly shear that will soon impact Bret in the next couple of days. Not now, not tomorrow. The system has about a couple of days to get better organized, and then the shear and dry air will soon have an impact on Bret once it gets closer and closer to the Leeward Islands. But yeah, you can see right here quite a bit of those filaments, and also a dry, stable air mass too on the northern side, which we will look here at the models in just a second. As matters of fact, there's a look at the water vapor imagery, and we can see, if we kind of play this through, we can see there is semblance of the strong upper level ridge to the north here that is carved out here. Oops, I drew a L. I don't know why I did that. But there's the ridge up there to the north, and we also have outflow, an anticyclonic ridge on top of this system, which means the system is in fairly light shear. But of course, there's a trough up here well to the north, away from the system, that will soon encroach the shear and dry air into the system. Here's a look at the latest National Hurricane Center forecast. Winds now at 40 miles an hour. The system has been moving pretty briskly at around 21 miles an hour, probably helping to induce a little bit of that westerly shear, anywhere between 10 or 15 knots at least. Otherwise, the system, if it was moving slower, it might be able to intensify a little bit quicker. Fortunately, the system speed is preventing that from happening at the moment. We are still expecting the system to reach hurricane status by Thursday morning, as you can see here. Actually, even earlier than that. Probably by tomorrow, by Wednesday night, we should see a hurricane here, and then it could be a hurricane as it crosses the Lesser Antilles. Some of these islands right here could get some pretty big impacts. Heavy rain, strong winds, flooding, storm surge impacts could certainly be a big threat, especially from, say, Thursday afternoon all the way through Friday afternoon as it crosses these islands here during this time frame, and then eventually getting into the Greater Antilles by the time we go into Saturday. More on that in the numerical guidance. So I do want to read you all the text product. I always like doing this. I want to make sure I am providing the most reliable, most accurate weather information that I can possible for a lot of you that like these videos, that want to share these videos, and everything like that. So this is as of this afternoon, 5 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, Monday, June the 19th. Satellite imagery continues to show that the system is becoming better organized, and we can clearly see that. I mean, there is no way that this has lost organization. We have very nice feathery white cirrus. We have a curlicue structure, kind of a cinnamon roll look to this, which indicates pretty organized. GOES 1 minute data shows convective banding and a central dense overcast with low-level center embedded on the northwestern side of the overcast, probably because, again, how fast the system is moving, probably a little bit of motion shear that we're seeing. With the low-level center, okay, we just read that. Given the satellite trends and the latest Dvorak estimates, they're upgrading this to a tropical storm with winds that are now at 40 miles an hour. Environmental conditions do appear conducive for further strengthening over the next few days with much warmer than normal sea surface temperatures. We're looking at sea surface temperatures very warm, well above average. That usually represented in early to mid-September. So we're definitely ahead of the game here as far as how much heat content there is in the ocean, how far above average those waters are. With plentiful of mid-level moisture and light shear, the NHC forecast continues to show gradual increase in wind speed similar to the model consensus. However, vertical shear is expected to increase by most of the model guidance by day 3 in response to an upper-level trough, which again, we will be taking a look here at our numerical guidance to better illustrate with what they mean by that. And there will be slow weakening after that point. While Bret is over the Eastern Caribbean, there continues to be larger than unusual uncertainty due to the widespread between the stronger regional hurricane models and the weaker global guidance, which is the European model and the GFS model. All right, so you can find this all on there below the video. I will have this whole text product out so you all can actually read it on your own time. But we are looking at the winds that will increase up to 80 miles an hour within the next 2 to 3 days, and I'm still slightly below because the forecast, and the reason because of that is the shear and dry air that I'll show you here. And I'm still holding this at about 75, 74 miles an hour, which is about a Category 1 hurricane. All right, so this is updated, right? Okay, Bret is forecast to strengthen and move across the Lesser Antilles as a hurricane on Thursday and a Friday, bringing a risk of flooding from heavy rainfall, hurricane-force winds, and dangerous storm surge and waves. We're looking at some pretty big flood problems here on some of the Lesser Antilles, so just be aware of that, folks. I mean, we're looking at a lot of potential damage and destruction here because the system, again, is going to be moving over those islands. Given the larger than usual uncertainty in the track forecast, it is too early to specify the location and magnitude of where these hazards could occur. However, everyone in the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands should closely monitor the updates to the forecast for Bret and have their hurricane plan in place. For more information, you can go to hurricanes.gov or the National Hurricane Center for the latest information. So this is a look at the latest arrival time of those tropical storm force winds. Not much changes to the forecast. We're looking at potentially Thursday night for much of the Lesser Antilles, including Dominica, Martinique, as well as St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, probably by Thursday night, and then by Friday morning over the U.S. British Virgin Islands, and possibly by Friday night over Puerto Rico. I mean, we've had a lot of tropical storms and hurricanes moving through this area over the last few years, and so I just pray and hope you all are going to be safe, because again, just because it may not be a major hurricane does not mean it won't be major impacts. We're looking at quite a bit of impacts because there's going to be a lot of moisture associated with this system. So now I like showing you all the hurricane models, and finally we got something for you all today. Actually, the HWRF, we're going to actually use some of our newer models. I don't know why I did not click on that in time, but here's a look at the HAFS parent model. And we can see that the system is expected, again, to intensify. And you can see quite a bit of vorticity here, well illustrated. Probably a little noisy, but when we take a look at our HWRF parent run for the time being, and it is out. There we go. We finally got our new update from the HWRF model showing you very strong cyclonic vorticity. This is the same product, 500 millibar geopotential height. The colors that you see is vorticity, how much spin is in the atmosphere. And this is, again, over the Lesser Antilles, these islands right here, bringing quite a bit of rain, wind, flooding, possibly landslides, some coastal erosion as well. So, again, please take this seriously. Even so, it's not a major hurricane. Yeah, major impacts do follow well within a hurricane. Even a tropical depression could bring major impacts too. Not all, but some. And then we're watching this other disturbance in the wake of Bret here. This could become our C name storm. Not going to pre-name yet because, again, we don't know exactly how that's all going to evolve. So now, the 200 millibar steering flow, we're going to look at this. Actually, you know what? Let's switch gears. Let's actually look at our moisture plot because we'll be looking at this plot in a second. We're not going to, we'll use European, why not? So you can see here, lots of moisture that is still in place. That's why the system is going to thrive very nicely. But what do we have up here to the north and to the northwest? Out ahead of Bret, well, we got some dry air. Those are the brown colors that you see on the moisture plot. That is bad news for tropical storms or hurricanes in this case because they prevent the deep convection from sustaining to lowering the pressure and allowing some divergent flow aloft. So what we have here is drier air that is going to be soon impacting the system. By day 3 here, by Wednesday night into early Thursday, you can see a very lopsided system. So not really, very asymmetrical because, again, we got the shear that is going to be coming in out of the westerly direction. And then going forward here, we can see that apparently, supposedly, the HWRF still wants a major hurricane. I don't believe it. I really don't, because there is some other models that we have that I'll show you on the global model consensus that clearly show a whole different story ball game. But yes, if this did come to pass, this would be a pretty big, significant, life-threatening situation for the Lesser Antilles. Yeah, we would be looking at maybe a high-end Cat 1, Cat 2 hurricane, but of course, I am not jumping the gun with that, and I'm going to stay low and generous with my forecast. But nevertheless, it really won't matter very much. Hurricane or not, there is going to be a lot of impacts, and they will be major impacts on some of those islands, depending on exactly where this heads into. So here's a look at the European model. This is the 12Z run, and yes, there is our vorticity, our signature, showing you how much spin there is in the atmosphere. And like I illustrated in this morning's video and yesterday's video, these are height lines. So this is showing us at 850 millibars where our ridge is in the lower levels of the atmosphere. These wind barbs, these flags that you see here illustrate which way the wind is coming from, the steering flow at that layer. And then the colors do indicate how much spin there is, vorticity, cyclonic vorticity that is. So going forward here, we can see that the system is going to develop pretty nicely. Well, in the European model world, probably not so much, but we have another model to back that up that I still think this is going to become a high-end tropical storm or a low-end hurricane. You can see where it's moving. It wants to do more with Invest 93L. We'll talk briefly about that at the very end of the video, but you can see it crosses these islands by Thursday afternoon and Thursday evening across say if you're in Dominica, just to the south there, some of these islands, Barbados, could get impacted with heavy rain, strong winds. Again, that's the European model because it shows that the system is going to be weaker, so it's going to generally want to head west more quicker and at a lower latitude. And you can see it really gets destroyed, while then we have another system that wants to develop here. But again, we're not going to worry about this one right now, one system at a time, or otherwise this video would end up being like 30 or 40 minutes long. I don't think anyone would want to watch a video 30 or 40 minutes long. The whole point of these videos is trying to get you all the content that you all want as quickly as and efficiently as possible. So this is a look at the GFS 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. Not only that, we're looking at the 500 millibar height map, the plot here, and the 200 millibar wind plot as well. So 3 layers put to 1, in other words. So it gives us a better understanding what's going to exactly happen. So this is a look at the GFS going forward in the next 3 days. The whole consensus here and straightforward forecast is that there is going to be a ridge, a deep layer ridge to the north, and you can see it outlined here quite nicely. But what we don't really see very much is there is basically easterly flow. Now, the problem with this is there's northeasterly flow in the lower and mid levels of the atmosphere. What that's going to do? Well, that's going to contribute to southerly shear here, or even at times southwesterly shear. And the storm's motion allows that shear to be more up, kind of direct head shear instead. So therefore, the system's not going to do well in this environment. And once it gets to this point, there is a little bit. Now, it's not shown here in the 500 millibar plot, as we can see here, a nice good ridge in place, right? But there is going to be some low-level and high-level shear that's going to be in place. So we can see these wind barbs. See how these are curving down like this? See them? We're going to see a little bit of a tut, a little bit of a trough, or what we call a tropical upper-level tropospheric trough that's going to be in place. And we can see this pinch-off right here. What that's going to do, that's going to actually help to shunt a lot of the outflow away from the system in one direction, and that's going to actually lead to more stronger shear in the deep layer. So instead of seeing these nice anticyclonic winds with that what we want to see under a pretty favorable environment, more so this system is underneath that better environment, tucked back within the lighter flow. The flow out ahead of this is more sheared. So we can see with what's going to happen here is we got this tut, and we could even have another product here, and we can see this on the PVU streamer forecast. See this trough here, how it just kind of digs and kind of pinches like that? That's going to lead to shear, and systems don't like shear, and with dry air that's in place, there's going to be a lot of destruction, a lot of decoupling possibly with this, and we can see how the system is very lopsided. I mean, one could even argue that this could not even be a hurricane at all. Even so it's a hurricane, it's going to be very lopsided. Don't underestimate it, though, because there's going to be a lot of moisture even on the backside. Yeah, there's moisture, heavy rain, strong winds with this. And then you can see how it really struggles for a while because of that shear that's going to be in place. So, yeah, the next 3 days, the system's going to do pretty well at strengthening and getting better organized. And then once we get past the 2.5 day mark, it's going to struggle quite a bit due to the dry air and shear that's going to be in place. So now questions are being asked in my comment section in previous videos. How strong will Bret get? Ignore the 3 here because this is actually a named storm. Well, my intensity forecast is unchanged from the last one, and I still forecast that this is going to be a low-end hurricane, 75-mile-an-hour winds. Even so, that some of these models, you could ignore these. They are going off the charts, Category 2, Category 3. We can't trust those models yet. However, what we can trust is there is a high ceiling to this, given how well it develops. It's a small system. Small systems could spin up very quickly. So there is a high ceiling on this for a major hurricane, even so it's not explicitly shown in the NHC forecast. We do have to kind of watch things closely just to see how quick this could actually get organized. But for right now, most of the models are in the tropical storm to Category 1 range. But don't worry about it because It's going to be strong. Doesn't matter if it's a Cat 1, Cat 2, or tropical storm. Intensity is not going to really matter a lot because there's a lot of moisture with this. Flooding, storm surge, damaging winds. There's going to be a lot of wind damage, property damage. So keep that in mind. Even so it's not going to be a 130 mile an hour storm, it will do the trick. A Cat 1 is just as bad as a Cat 2, Cat 3, Cat 4, and even a tropical storm in itself. We have better agreement today that most of the models are now further south. So we do know for sure, can't rely on the spaghetti plot entirely, but it gives us a better idea with now the consistency that's actually going to occur. So most of the models now are right down in the middle of the Lesser Antilles. So it's just south of the Dominica, I should say, and just north of Barbados. So some of the models are right on top of you. And so this does not mean you will get impacted with the system, but there's higher confidence now than what we had just a few days ago when a lot of the models were just all over the place from north to south with its actual trajectory. All right, so that's going to do it. Before I do in the video, though, we do want to briefly update you on Invest 93L. Can't forget that, since we did talk about Tropical Storm Bret, our second named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. There is a 50% chance that Invest 93L will become our next name system, letter C in the alphabet, our third name possible in the month of June alone. So we'll keep you updated as more information comes in. But for right now, let's focus on one storm at a time, and that is Tropical Storm Bret. Anyways, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I will be back in the office tomorrow with another detailed update on Tropical Storm Bret. But anyways, thank you all for watching.